The cold vastness of space held many secrets, but none quite like this. In the main archive room of Space Station Delta, a young lieutenant stood frozen, eyes wide as they stared at the holographic display before them. Their hands trembled slightly as they swiped through the classified files they'd just uncovered. The discovery wasn't supposed to happen this way. They had simply been searching through old battle records, trying to find better defensive strategies against the Kraxan Empire's latest attacks. The lieutenant's heart raced as they read through the details of Project Phoenix Core. It seemed almost too good to be true, a revolutionary system that could allow battleships to not just repair themselves, but evolve and grow stronger after taking damage. The technology had been theoretical, developed by a group of brilliant scientists nearly 50 years ago, but never successfully implemented due to the immense power requirements and technological limitations of that era. The timing couldn't have been more crucial. Just last week, humanity had faced its first major space battle against the Kraxan Empire, and the losses had been devastating. 3 colony ships destroyed, 5 battleships reduced to space debris, and countless lives lost. The lieutenant had lost friends in that battle, good people who deserved better than to become another statistic in humanity's first interstellar war. With shaking hands, they downloaded the Phoenix Core files onto their secure tablet. The walk to the commander's office felt like the longest journey of their life. Each step echoed through the station's corridors, mixing with the constant hum of life support systems and distant machinery. Their mind raced with possibilities. If this technology worked, it could change everything. If it failed, they might lose their position for wasting the commander's time with ancient failed projects. The commander's reaction wasn't what they expected. Instead of dismissal, their eyes lit up with recognition. "I remember hearing whispers about this," they said, leaning forward in their chair. The old guard called it the Immortal Ship Project. Everyone thought it was just a pipe dream. The next few hours became a blur of activity. Top engineers were called in, ancient data was analyzed, and historical records were cross-referenced. The more they dug, the more promising the Phoenix Core technology appeared. Modern power systems could handle the energy requirements. Current AI systems could manage the complex regeneration protocols. What was impossible 50 years ago might just be achievable today. But time wasn't on their side. Intelligence reports showed the Kraxan Empire was preparing for another major offensive. Their ships, with their biological mechanical hybrid technology, had proven superior to Earth's finest vessels in every engagement so far. The casualty reports grew longer each week, and morale across the United Earth fleet was at an all-time low. The decision to implement Phoenix Core came down to a tense video conference between Space Station Delta and United Earth Command. The debate lasted for hours. Some argued it was too risky, that they couldn't waste resources on an unproven technology during wartime. Others insisted they had no choice. Conventional weapons and tactics weren't enough against the Kraxan threat. In the end, necessity won out over caution. The UES Hyperion, Earth's newest and most advanced battleship, would become the test subject for humanity's most ambitious military project. As the lieutenant watched the massive ship dock with Space Station Delta through the observation deck's windows, they couldn't help but wonder if they'd just found humanity's salvation or stumbled upon another dead end in humanity's desperate fight for survival. The installation team worked around the clock, retrofitting the Hyperion with the Phoenix Core system. The ship's reactor had to be completely redesigned, new neural networks were installed throughout the hull, and countless systems had to be modified to work with the experimental technology. Every engineer and technician knew they were part of something unprecedented. They were either making history or preparing for humanity's most expensive military failure. What no one realized then was that they were about to change the course of not just the war, but of human history itself. The Phoenix Core technology would soon prove to be more revolutionary than even its creators had imagined, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The installation of the Phoenix Core system turned Space Station Delta into a hive of non-stop activity. Workers moved in shifts around the clock, their boots clanking against metal floors as they rushed between the station and the massive UES Hyperion. The docking bay, usually quiet and orderly, now buzzed with the energy of what felt like 1,000 people working toward a single goal. The chief engineer, A veteran spacer with graying hair and hands roughened by decades of work stood in the Hyperion's engine room surrounded by holographic displays. Their experienced eyes narrowed as they studied the complex integration patterns of the Phoenix core technology. "We're basically teaching a ship to heal itself," they explained to their team. "Like a living creature, but with metal and energy instead of flesh and blood." Not everyone believed in the project. Word had spread through the ranks of United Earth Command, and many high-ranking officers voiced their doubts. "It's a waste of resources," some argued during video conferences. "We need proven weapons, not experimental technology." Others were more direct. "The Hyperion is our best ship. If this fails, we're basically handing it to the Kraxan on a silver platter." But the team working on the Hyperion didn't have time for doubts. The Kraxan Empire's forces were advancing toward the outer colonies, leaving destruction in their wake. Each day brought new reports of attacks, and with them, more reasons to push harder. The engineers worked through their exhaustion, catching short naps in makeshift beds near their workstations. The Phoenix core installation wasn't just about following blueprints. The team had to solve problems the original designers never anticipated. Modern systems had to be adapted to work with theoretical technology. The ship's AI needed completely new protocols to handle the regeneration process. Every solution brought new challenges, and every challenge demanded innovative thinking. The chief engineer spent countless hours in virtual simulations, testing different scenarios. "The core has to recognize the difference between battle damage and regular wear and tear," they explained to their deputy. "Otherwise, it might try to regenerate parts that just need normal maintenance." Their fingers flew over holographic controls, adjusting parameters and studying results. As the work progressed, something unexpected happened. The crew began to feel a deeper connection to the ship. It wasn't just a machine anymore. They were giving it the ability to learn, adapt, and survive. The Hyperion was becoming something entirely new, a hybrid of traditional engineering and revolutionary science that had never existed before. The breakthrough came during the third week of installation. During a test of the core systems, the ship's hull showed the first signs of self-repair. It was small, just a tiny scratch that sealed itself, but it proved the concept worked. The entire engineering team cheered, their voices echoing through the massive engine room. Even the skeptics had to admit it was impressive. But time was running out. Intelligence reports showed increased Kraxan fleet movement near the Proxima Centauri colony. The Hyperion would need to be ready for its first real mission soon, whether the Phoenix core was fully tested or not. The pressure to complete the installation mounted with each passing hour. The chief engineer stood in the observation room, watching as the final calibrations were made. The Hyperion's hull now pulsed with a faint blue glow, the visible sign of the Phoenix core's energy web spreading throughout the ship. They'd done everything they could to prepare the vessel for what was coming. As the installation team ran their final checks, no one could shake the feeling that they were standing at a turning point in human history. The Hyperion wasn't just a battleship anymore. It was humanity's best hope against an enemy that had so far proved unstoppable. Whether that hope would be realized or shattered would soon be put to the ultimate test. The chief engineer placed their hand against the cold window, looking at their reflection overlaid on the massive ship beyond. "Be ready," they whispered, both to the ship and to themselves. "You're carrying all our dreams with you." Little did they know just how prophetic those words would prove to be. The day of the Hyperion's maiden voyage arrived with a mix of hope and tension. The ship's crew moved through their pre-launch checks with careful precision, each person aware of the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. In the captain's chair, the commander gripped the armrests tightly, watching as the massive docking clamps released their hold. "All systems are green," reported the bridge officer, their voice steady despite the pressure. "Phoenix core is running at optimal levels." The blue glow of the core system pulsed through the ship's internal networks, visible through transparent conduits that ran along the corridors like glowing veins. The Hyperion pulled away from Space Station Delta smoothly, its engines humming with power. The crew couldn't help but feel proud. This was humanity's most advanced ship, now enhanced with technology that could change the course of the war. Through the bridge windows, they watched their home station grow smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Their mission was supposed to be simple: a patrol run near the Proxima Centauri colony to test the ship's systems under real space conditions. But fate had other plans. The alert came just 3 hours into their journey, blaring through the ship's communication systems with urgent priority. Multiple cracks and signatures detected. The sensor officer's voice cut through the bridge's calm atmosphere. A full battle fleet just dropped out of hyperspace near the colony. The tactical display lit up with red dots, 15 Kraxan warships, including 3 of their dreaded dreadnoughts. The commander didn't hesitate. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat. The Hyperion's corridors echoed with the sound of running feet as crew members rushed to their positions. The ship's AI began routing extra power to weapons and shields, while the Phoenix core system hummed with untested potential. The first exchange of fire was unlike anything the crew had ever experienced. The Hyperion's new weapons carved through space, striking a Kraxan cruiser with devastating effect. For a moment, it seemed like the Phoenix core technology had given them the edge they needed. But then the Kraxan fleet responded with their full might. Biomechanical weapons, the hallmark of Kraxan technology, streaked toward the Hyperion. The ship's shields fled brilliantly as they absorbed the first hits, but the attacks kept coming. Shield strength dropping, called out the defense officer. They're concentrating their fire. The bridge shook violently as another volley struck home. Warning lights flashed across every console as systems began to fail. The commander watched in horror as the tactical display showed 3 Kraxan dreadnoughts moving to surround them. They had walked right into a trap. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7. The damage control officer's voice was strained. The Phoenix core is trying to respond, but the damage is too extensive. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut throughout the ship as atmosphere vented into space. The commander made the hardest decision of their career. All hands, abandon ship. Get to the escape pods. They hit the ship-wide comm button. This is not a drill. All personnel evacuate immediately. Their heart ached as they gave the order, knowing they might be sacrificing humanity's greatest technological achievement. The evacuation was chaos controlled by training. Crew members helped each other to escape pods, making sure no one was left behind. The ship's AI coordinated the evacuation, directing people around damaged sections and keeping escape routes clear. Through the escape pod windows, the crew watched their beautiful ship take hit after hit. The Hyperion's once gleaming hull was now scarred and broken, pieces of it floating away into the void. The Phoenix core's blue glow flickered like a dying heartbeat. As the last escape pod launched, the commander took one final look at their ship. The Hyperion hung in space, surrounded by the triumphant Kraxan fleet. Its lights were failing, its hull was shattered, and it seemed that humanity's great hope was about to become just another piece of space debris. But in the darkness of space, as the Kraxan ships moved in for the kill, something unprecedented was about to happen. The Hyperion wasn't dead. It was about to prove why it had been named after the immortal Phoenix of legend. The Kraxan fleet hung in space, their biomechanical ships arranged in a victory formation around the broken remains of the Hyperion. Inside the nearest rescue vessel, the evacuated crew watched their screens in silence. The chief engineer gripped their tablet tightly, refusing to look away from the sensor readings that showed their ship's death throes. Then something caught their eye. A tiny spike in energy readings from the wreckage. At first, they thought it was just a dying system's last gasp. But then another spike appeared, stronger this time. "Look at this," they called out, hands shaking as they enhanced the display. The Phoenix core, it's still active. Through the rescue ship's windows, everyone could see it starting. A soft blue glow began to pulse through the scattered debris of the Hyperion. It started slowly, like a heartbeat returning after a long silence. Pieces of wreckage that had been floating away suddenly stopped, then began to move back toward the main hull. "The core is pulling everything back together," shouted a junior engineer, their voice filled with wonder. "It's using the gravitational systems." The Kraxan ships, still celebrating their victory, didn't immediately notice what was happening beneath their hulls. The blue glow intensified, becoming a brilliant web of energy that connected the scattered pieces of the Hyperion. But something unexpected was happening. The ship wasn't just reclaiming its own parts. Debris from destroyed Kraxan ships began to move too, drawn into the growing energy field. On the rescue vessel's bridge, the commander watched in amazement as their sensors tried to make sense of what they were seeing. The Phoenix Corps isn't just rebuilding the ship, they realized aloud. It's learning from the enemy technology. It's evolving. The Kraxan fleet finally noticed something was wrong. Their ships turned their sensors toward the phenomenon, but by then it was too late to stop what was happening. The blue energy field had become a swirling vortex of light and matter with the Hyperion's core at its center. Pieces of hull plating came together like puzzle pieces finding their proper place, but they weren't just connecting, they were changing. Where Kraxan biomechanical technology met human engineering, something new emerged. The ship's hull began to ripple with patterns that looked almost alive, yet remained distinctly mechanical. "The power readings are off the charts," called out the sensor officer. The rescue ship's instruments were barely able to keep up with the transformation happening before them. The Kraxan fleet began to back away, their ships firing desperate shots into the energy field that simply absorbed the attacks and used them as more fuel for the transformation. The chief engineer's tablet was flooded with data as the Phoenix Corps sent out streams of information. "It's not just copying their technology," they explained, their voice filled with awe. "It's improving it, making it something entirely new." The crew crowded around their screens, watching as the impossible unfolded before them. Finally, the energy field began to fade, revealing what the Hyperion had become. The ship that emerged was both familiar and alien. Its hull shimmered with a combination of smooth human design and the organic patterns of Kraxan technology. New weapon systems sprouted from reconfigured sections, and the entire vessel pulsed with an inner light that spoke of power barely contained. The Kraxan fleet's communications fell silent. Their ships, previously arranged in an aggressive formation, now hung back uncertainly. For the first time since the war began, the mighty Kraxan Empire seemed unsure of what to do. Inside the rescue vessel, the chief engineer quickly began interfacing with the Hyperion systems. To their surprise, the ship responded immediately to their commands, its new hybrid systems somehow even more intuitive than before. The Phoenix Corps had evolved beyond their wildest expectations, creating something that was neither fully human nor Kraxan, but something entirely new. As the transformed Hyperion oriented itself toward the Kraxan fleet, its weapon systems came online one by one. The message was clear. The hunter had become the hunted, and the real test of the Phoenix Corps' capabilities was about to begin. The reborn Hyperion hung in space like a beautiful nightmare, its new form catching starlight in ways that didn't seem possible. The ship's hull rippled with patterns that reminded the watching crew of waves on an alien sea, metallic surfaces blending seamlessly with biomechanical elements taken from the Kraxan technology. From the rescue vessel's bridge, the chief engineer worked frantically at their control panel. "The ship's responding to remote commands," they announced, their voice filled with excitement. "But these readings, they're like nothing I've ever seen." The Hyperion's systems were sending back data that made the engineer's head spin, power levels that should have been impossible, weapons that hadn't existed minutes ago. The Kraxan fleet remained frozen in place, their usual aggressive tactics replaced by obvious uncertainty. Their ship's sensors swept over the transformed Hyperion again and again, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. The mighty alien empire, which had never shown fear before, seemed genuinely rattled. "Look at the hull structure," called out one of the junior engineers, pointing at their display. The Hyperion's outer layer wasn't just armor anymore, it was a living thing, constantly shifting and adapting. When a nervous Kraxan ship fired a test shot, the hull simply absorbed the energy, using it to strengthen itself further. Inside the transformed ship, automated systems hummed with new life. The Phoenix Corps had done more than just rebuild the Hyperion, it had reimagined it. Corridors that had been torn apart now flowed with organic curves while maintaining their military efficiency. The bridge, once destroyed, had become a perfect blend of human intuition and alien advancement. "All weapons systems online," reported the tactical officer from the rescue vessel, their eyes wide as they reviewed the capabilities. The Hyperion now carried an arsenal that combined the best of both worlds, human precision merged with Kraxan biomechanical power. Each weapon had been improved beyond its original design, creating something entirely new. The ship's main gun, once a standard plasma cannon, had evolved into something the sensors couldn't even properly classify. Energy readings suggested it could match the power of 3 Crexan dreadnoughts combined. The defensive systems were equally impressive, featuring shields that adapted to attacks in real time. As the chief engineer continued their remote interface with the ship, they discovered something even more amazing. The Phoenix core isn't done evolving, they announced. It's still learning, still improving. Every second we watch, it's getting stronger. The ship's systems were upgrading themselves, finding better ways to integrate the merged technologies. The Crexan fleet's command ship finally broke the tense silence, broadcasting a message in all frequencies. Their usual demands for surrender were replaced by something unprecedented, a request for communication. The mighty Crexan Empire, for the first time in known history, wanted to talk. But before any response could be sent, one of the smaller Crexan ships panicked. Perhaps its crew couldn't handle the pressure of facing something they couldn't understand. They launched a full barrage of weapons, their biomechanical missiles streaking toward the Hyperion like angry hornets. What happened next left everyone watching in stunned silence. The Hyperion didn't just defend itself, it put on a display of technical superiority that would be talked about for generations. Each incoming missile was caught in a web of energy, disassembled in seconds, and its components added to the Hyperion's ever-growing collection of improvements. The ship, whispered the commander, watching from the rescue vessel's bridge, it's not just surviving. It's teaching us how to be better. They were right. The Hyperion had become more than a weapon or a defensive tool. It was a symbol of humanity's ability to adapt, to take a devastating defeat and turn it into an opportunity for growth. The transformed ship stood ready, its weapons primed but not firing, giving the Crexan fleet a chance to reconsider their options. In the space of a few minutes, the entire balance of power in the galaxy has shifted. The question now wasn't whether humanity could survive, it was how their adversaries would adapt to this new reality. The mood aboard the rescue vessel shifted from amazement to determination as the chief engineer took control of the transformed Hyperion. Their fingers danced across the holographic controls with practiced skill, though everything about the ship was new and different. The rest of the bridge crew held their breath, watching as humanity's most advanced vessel prepared to show its true power. "Let's show them what she can do," the commander said quietly, nodding to the chief engineer. The Hyperion's new engines lit up with a brilliant blue glow, moving the ship into an attack position with a grace that seemed impossible for something its size. The Crexan fleet's formation tightened nervously in response. The first shot came from one of the Crexan dreadnoughts, a desperate attempt to regain control of the situation. The massive energy beam that had previously torn through the Hyperion's hull now splashed harmlessly against its new defenses. But what happened next left everyone speechless. Instead of simply absorbing the attack, the Hyperion's evolved shields redirected the energy, channeling it through its new biomechanical systems. The ship's hull pulsed with absorbed power, and then released it back in a modified form that cut through the dreadnought's shields like they weren't even there. "Did you see that?" a young officer exclaimed. It didn't just block the attack, it learned from it. The sensors confirmed what they'd witnessed. The Hyperion wasn't just defending itself, it was analyzing each weapon used against it and developing better countermeasures in real time. The Crexan fleet broke formation, their usual coordinated tactics dissolving into chaos. 2 more ships opened fire, their biomechanical weapons twisting through space toward the Hyperion. The response was even more impressive this time. The transformed ship's weapons split into multiple targeting systems, each one perfectly countering the incoming attacks while launching precision strikes of their own. From the rescue vessel's tactical display, the crew watched in awe as the Hyperion systematically disabled the Crexan ships one by one. It didn't destroy them, it didn't need to. Instead, it targeted their key systems with surgical precision, using its hybrid weapons to shut down engines and weapons without causing catastrophic damage. "Look at how it's fighting," the tactical officer observed. "It's not just about power, it's showing intelligence, messy even. It's fighting like we would want to fight." They were right. The Phoenix Corps hadn't just created a more powerful ship, it had somehow captured the essence of human values in its combat strategy. The Kraxan flagship, seeing its fleet being systematically disabled, finally made the decision that would change the course of the war. It powered down its weapons and broadcast a surrender signal. One by one, the remaining Kraxan ships followed suit, their mighty biomechanical vessels going dark in the face of superior technology. But the most remarkable moment came after the fighting stopped. The Hyperion, rather than remaining in a defensive posture, began sending out repair pulses to the damaged Kraxan ships. The same technology that had allowed it to heal itself was now being used to prevent their enemies from being stranded in space. "This is incredible," the chief engineer muttered, studying the readings. "The Phoenix Core isn't just about warfare, it's showing us a better way to handle conflicts." The hybrid technology was proving to be more than a weapon. It was a tool for change, capable of both defending humanity and demonstrating their capacity for compassion. As the rescue vessel moved to coordinate with the surrendered Kraxan fleet, the transformed Hyperion stood watch like a guardian angel. Its new form, still shifting and adapting, seemed to glow with an inner light that represented hope rather than threat. In less than an hour of combat, it had not only won a battle but possibly changed the entire direction of the war. The commander looked at their crew, seeing the pride and wonder in their eyes. "Send word to Earth Command," they ordered. Tell them the Phoenix has risen, and it's more than we ever dreamed possible." News of the Hyperion's transformation spread through human space like wildfire. Within hours of the battle, every screen on Earth and the colonies was showing grainy footage captured from the rescue vessel. People gathered in streets and common areas, watching in amazement as the Phoenix Core technology proved itself beyond anyone's wildest expectations. Back at Space Station Delta, the chief engineer stood before a room packed with military officials and scientists. Their hands trembled slightly as they played back the sensor logs from the battle. "What you're seeing isn't just a technological advancement," they explained, pointing to the flowing data streams. "It's an entirely new way of thinking about space warfare." The Kraxan Empire's response to their defeat sent shockwaves through their entire civilization. Their military council, which had never known defeat in their 1,000-year history, fell into chaos. Reports leaked out about heated arguments in their high command, with younger leaders pushing for immediate changes while the old guard struggled to maintain their grip on power. "They're terrified," explained an intelligence officer during a briefing, displaying intercepted Kraxan communications. "Not just of the technology, but of what it represents. We've shown them that their way isn't the only way. That adaptation can beat raw power." The footage playing behind them showed Kraxan ships in dry dock, their crews frantically trying to upgrade their systems based on what they'd seen. But the most fascinating developments were happening aboard the Hyperion itself. The ship hadn't stopped evolving after the battle. Every hour brought new discoveries as the Phoenix Core continued to refine and improve its systems. Engineers working on the vessel reported that it felt more like studying a living creature than a machine. "Watch this," said a young technician during an inspection, pointing to a small scratch they'd just made on the hull. Everyone leaned in close as the damaged area shifted and rippled, the metal flowing like water until the mark disappeared completely. "It's not just repairing itself anymore, it's getting better at it. Faster, smarter." The implications went far beyond military applications. Scientists began theorizing about using Phoenix Core technology for civilian purposes. Imagine ships that could repair themselves after accidents, one researcher told a packed conference hall. Space stations that could grow and adapt to their inhabitants' needs. The possibilities are endless. Earth's political landscape shifted too. Countries that had been reluctant to fully commit to the war effort now scrambled to contribute resources to the Phoenix Core project. The transformed Hyperion became a symbol of human ingenuity and adaptability, featured in recruitment posters and propaganda broadcasts across the galaxy. But not everyone celebrated. Some voiced concerns about the rapid advancement of the technology. "What happens when it evolves beyond our control?" asked one veteran commander during a closed-door meeting. "How do we know it will always share our values?" The questions were valid, but for most, the immediate benefits outweighed the theoretical risks. The Hyperion's crew, now heroes across human space, found themselves dealing with their own mixed emotions. They had lost their ship, watched it die, and then seen it reborn as something entirely new. "It's still our ship," the commander insisted during interviews, Just more. Like it grew up, learned from its mistakes, and came back stronger. The chief engineer spent countless hours analyzing the data from the transformation. The most amazing thing, they told their team, is that we're only seeing the beginning. The Phoenix core isn't just a one-time miracle. It's a continuous process of growth and improvement. Their eyes sparkled with excitement as they studied the ever-changing readings from the ship's systems. As the dust settled from the initial excitement, one thing became clear: the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had not just created a powerful new weapon, they had discovered a new path forward. The Phoenix core represented hope, not just for winning a war, but for evolving beyond it. In the space dock where the transformed Hyperion rested, maintenance crews worked round the clock, learning something new about the ship every day. Its gently pulsing hull stood as a testament to human persistence and innovation, a reminder that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come not from careful planning, but from the desperate need to survive. In the weeks following the Hyperion's transformation, the chief engineer barely left the observation deck, spending countless hours watching the ship continue to evolve. Each day brought new surprises as the Phoenix core technology pushed the boundaries of what everyone thought possible. "Come look at this," they called out to their team one morning, pointing at their tablets' readings. The Hyperion had started developing what looked like a network of secondary cores throughout its hull. It's not just repairing anymore, it's creating backup systems for everything, learning from its past vulnerability. The most fascinating changes happened during the night shifts, when most of the station slept. Security footage showed the ship's hull rippling with patterns of light, like it was dreaming. The night crew started calling these moments evolution waves, marking down each new feature they discovered in the morning. Yesterday, it couldn't interface with our older communication systems, one young technician explained to a visiting admiral. Today, it created its own translation protocols. It's like it wants to talk to everything, old or new. The ship had developed an almost eager personality, reaching out to learn from every piece of technology it encountered. But understanding these changes wasn't easy. The original team that had installed the Phoenix core worked around the clock, trying to make sense of how their creation had grown so far beyond their initial designs. They set up a special research division, combining the brightest minds from both military and civilian sectors. The best way to understand it, the chief engineer told their team during a briefing, is to think of it like a child prodigy. We gave it the basic tools, but it's teaching itself things we never imagined. They pulled up a holographic display showing the ship's neural network, now far more complex than anything humans had built before. One of the most unexpected developments came when the Hyperion started showing signs of predictive behavior. It began adjusting its systems to counter attacks that hadn't happened yet, preparing defenses for theoretical weapons that even the Kraxan Empire hadn't developed. "Watch this simulation," a weapons specialist said during a test, launching a newly designed missile at a test target. Before the missile could even lock on, the Hyperion had already developed and deployed a countermeasure. It's not just learning from the past, it's anticipating the future. The ship's crew quarters, once standard military compartments, had transformed into spaces that adapted to each person's needs. Lighting adjusted automatically to individual preferences, temperature controls fine-tuned themselves without input, and even the artificial gravity could shift slightly to make everyone more comfortable. But perhaps the most remarkable thing was how the Hyperion handled repairs. A minor collision with space debris became a learning opportunity. Instead of just fixing the damage, the ship analyzed the impact and developed new, more efficient ways to reinforce its structure. "It's like watching evolution in fast forward," observed one scientist, reviewing the data logs. "Each challenge makes it stronger, smarter, more capable." The Phoenix core had turned the Hyperion into something between a ship and a living entity, growing and adapting with each passing day. The engineering team started keeping a daily log of new developments, but they could barely keep up. One day, the ship would improve its energy efficiency, the next, it would develop better ways to recycle air and water. It was like watching centuries of technological advancement compressed into weeks. The real question, the chief engineer mused during a late-night study session, isn't what it can do now. It's what it will become tomorrow. They looked up at the massive ship through the observation window, its hull glowing softly in the station's artificial night. We didn't just build a better warship, we created something that can help us reach the stars in ways we never imagined. As the research continued, one thing became clear. The Phoenix core technology wasn't just a defensive system anymore. It had become a gateway to possibilities that would change humanity's future in space forever. The Hyperion wasn't just surviving, it was showing humanity how to thrive among the stars. 2 months after the Hyperion's incredible transformation, Earth's shipyards buzzed with unprecedented activity. Engineers and workers rushed between massive vessels, installing the first wave of Phoenix core systems into the fleet. The technology had been carefully studied, simplified, and adapted for widespread use. Each core is unique, explained the chief engineer to a group of fresh-faced technicians. Like fingerprints or personalities, you have to let them develop their own way. They stood in front of a newly retrofitted cruiser, watching as its hull began to show the first signs of adaptation, a supple shimmer running across its surface. The Kraxan Empire's response to these developments surprised everyone. Their ambassadors arrived at Earth's main diplomatic station in ships that showed no weapons signatures, a first in their species' history. The same race that had threatened to destroy humanity now asked to learn from them. "We have watched your Phoenix core technology," the lead Kraxan ambassador stated during the first meeting. "It shows us that there are paths we never considered, ways of growing stronger without relying solely on conquest." Their words, translated through computer systems, carried a hint of humility that no human had ever heard from their species before. But the most significant changes happened far from the diplomatic chambers and military installations. Civilian researchers began adapting Phoenix core principles for peaceful purposes. Space stations started incorporating self-repairing systems. Medical teams studied how the technology could help heal injuries and cure diseases. "Look at this," a medical researcher said excitedly, showing off a prototype healing chamber. "We've adapted the core's regenerative properties to work with organic tissue. The possibilities for treating injuries are endless." The chamber glowed with the same soft blue light that had become synonymous with the technology. The Hyperion itself had become something of a legend. Ships passing through its sector would slow down just to catch a glimpse of the vessel that had changed everything. Its hull, now a perfect blend of human and alien technology, seemed to shine with an inner light that spoke of possibilities yet to come. "It's still learning," the chief engineer told their team during a routine inspection. "Every day, it shows us something new." They watched as the ship interfaced with nearby vessels, sharing improvements and adaptations it had developed. The Phoenix core had turned it into not just a defender, but a teacher. Earth's colonies, once vulnerable outposts living in fear of Kraxan attacks, began to flourish. The presence of Phoenix core-equipped ships brought a sense of security that allowed people to dream bigger, build further, reach higher. New settlements sprang up on worlds that had once been considered too dangerous to inhabit. The technology's impact reached beyond human space. Other alien civilizations, watching from afar, began sending diplomatic missions to Earth. Species that had once dismissed humans as primitive now sought alliances and trade agreements. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted, not through force, but through innovation. "We didn't just build a better ship," the commander reflected during a celebration marking the first anniversary of the Hyperion's transformation. "We showed the galaxy a better way forward." They raised their glass toward the vessel visible through the station's windows, its hull rippling with patterns that seemed to answer the gesture. Young cadets at the Space Academy now studied the Hyperion incident as it came to be known, not just as a military victory, but as a turning point in human history. It represented the moment when humanity proved they could face any challenge, adapt to any situation, and come out stronger. The Phoenix core technology continued to evolve, each new generation bringing improvements no one had imagined possible. But its greatest achievement wasn't in the weapons it created or the defenses it provided. It was in showing that the best way to face the future wasn't to fight against change, but to embrace it, learn from it, and grow stronger because of it. As the Hyperion patrolled the now peaceful borders of human space, its gentle blue glow served as a reminder of humanity's greatest strengths, not the ability to destroy, but the power to adapt, to learn, and to turn even the darkest moments into opportunities for growth.